All right, Tom, thank you very much. You're on.
Okay, thanks, Andrea. So everyone keeps asking for, customers keep asking for whole home backup. Well, first actually, during a sale, they go to the salesperson and selling ESS, and they say, I want to unplug from the utility. I want to disconnect from the grid and go off grid. And the quick answer is, sorry, customer, you cannot do that. That is too expensive. You can't do it. So then the next question that they ask is, well, I want to do whole home backup. I want to power everything I can in the house when the power goes out. And the answer to that is, I don't think you can do that either. Especially if you've got an electric house, that's impossible. Even with a gas powered house, that is a lot of times not possible. So typically the salesperson has to tell the customer, okay, we can do a limited number of your loads, and you install a critical loads panel, and you only cover about a third of the circuits in the household, and it's a compromise. And then the installer arrives and they have to pick the circuits, and there's a whole bunch of compromises. So anyway, what customers really want is whole home backup. And so that's what we're trying to achieve. We try and listen to our installers very closely. And so anyway, that's why we came up with the 15 kilowatt hybrid. And we're going to show how we can use that hybrid along with smart load management and even microinverters, and be able to do some amazing things at a very low cost that doesn't really impact their pocketbook as bad as some. Let's see, I see already a Q&A. If you have a Q&A, please try and use the chat instead of Q&A for me, and I'll be able to answer it quickly. Okay, so my name's Tom Brennan. I'm the CTO, but wear multiple hats because we're a small company and we try and save money. And this is my vacation hair. If you haven't seen me in for real, weekends and vacations, I go crazy. Oh, and this is my vacation shirt. I didn't pack any collared shirts on this trip. But I'm happy to join you guys. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, our company's core purpose is powering families through life. That means our families and your families. It is a real pleasure to work with installers and customers. We really try and improve, and our focus is making the most reliable and innovative and affordable solar storage solutions for families and their businesses. That's what we do. These are reviews on Energy Sage. And thank you for doing reviews for us. We're not perfect, but we try very hard to improve our product and our support. It is hard to be the tip of the spear sometimes. We do make mistakes and software glitches and so forth, and we constantly try and add new features that you, the customers, are asking for. But anyway, we're not perfect, and but we appreciate the partnership that we have with our customers and our installers. We try and do the very best we can in every respect. And some examples are, some of the products I'll be showing you in terms of product improvement. In terms of customer support, we continue to add about 20 plus solar engineers every quarter, and sometimes that's growing pains where there's training issues there as well. But we're working through those, and we're extending our hours in terms of customer support starting in February. starting earlier and staying later and adding more people. And our goal is to make you successful. So otherwise we didn't achieve what we were focused on, what our mission was, the slide earlier. Okay, so a typical ESS sale and install. Again, I mentioned it just before. Every customer says, I want to disconnect from the grid. And that is not affordable. This is an example of someone who did that. And you know, that's a lot of money. I don't think most people can afford that. Our goal is not to sell you more inverters and more batteries. Our goal is to make it affordable as possible. And by the way, this is a beautiful install. But man, this is not an obscene size house. This is their garage. So it's just a typical household. So I want to show you how we can do this with a lot less inverters and a lot less batteries and a lot less money. Okay, so let's start off with the Sol-Ark 12K. There is a 63 amp grid bypass from the grid to the loads. The inverter itself is it's a split phase inverter, and it outputs 9 kilowatts total AC. And at the same time, we can put 3 kilowatts in the battery. It's the power split of 12 kilowatts, both to the battery and the AC output. There are 2 MPPTs that are 20 amps each. And the battery power is a single battery input with 185 amps continuous. And we can AC couple either on the gen breaker or on the load side, but we prefer the gen breaker because there's several safety advantages there. But anyway, that gen breaker limits us to 9.6 kilowatts, or maybe 12 now. Anyway, the point is, we listen and we try and continuously improve. So some of the drawbacks, you know, these were some of the limitations in customer feedback, and we took those and let me see here. Let me see if I can. Okay, I can do this. That's why we came up with the limitless 15K, and what we did is we are trying to make the install easier by covering everything in the main service panel. And I'll show how we do that later. But we need to be able to pass 200 amps through the entire system. We noticed that a lot of people were installing 200 amp automatic transfer switches, and those are about $800 to $1,000. And actually, there's a large limitation. I mean, there's a supply limitation right now, so they're kind of hard to come by for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's the semiconductor industry. We had to purchase a year or 2 years out for our semiconductors for our inverters. So anyway, we put a 200 amp bypass through the entire inverter. And so that went from 63 amps on the 12K to 200 amps. The other thing is we increased the power output. The power output is now 15 kilowatts if we're talking during the daytime from PV, and 12 kilowatts from the battery. So that's a significant power improvement from the 9 kilowatts on the 12K. The other thing is we added another MPPT, but the biggest thing is that we went from 20 amps to 26 amps because we're seeing some massive solar panels out there. 500 watt, 600 watt, and it's getting crazy. So we needed to increase the amperage so that the inverter could handle that. Some of this, anyway, just solar panels keep getting bigger, not necessarily more efficient. The other thing is we increased the battery input and output charge and discharge to 285 amps continuous. from 185 amps. And in order to do that, we couldn't just have one humongous battery breaker. That would require huge bus bars or battery cables that you cannot find readily available. So we actually broke it apart into two 200 amp breakers so that we can use normal 2-aught or 4-aught cable that you can go get locally. And it saves you the effort of having to take two batteries and do a combiner on your side. You can just take two separate batteries and run the cables directly to Sol-Ark, and we become the combiner. So it's a lot easier for you on the install side. The last thing is the gen input is now a 100 amp input. And so we can AC couple or put a generator on that side up to 19.2 kilowatts. And so we can build some very, very powerful systems. And this is just showing the overall picture of that. Again, actually it's 4 millisecond UPS transfer time from when the grid fails to the inverter, and a lot of power here. Okay, so a lot of times when we do a standard install, we do a critical loads panel because the bypass through the system is not huge. You know, for let's say it's 50 amps or 63 amps in the 12K case, we have to take and only do about a third of the breakers in the main service panel. And so the typical install gets installed. It's a compromise. The customer has to select which circuits they want to back up in their critical loads panel. And you know, it ends up where the customer calls back the installer and says, well, you missed my hair dryer, or you missed and that's critical to my wife, or you missed this set of lights, my bathroom number 3 lights. I got to have that on the critical loads panel. And then so the installer has to come back out and rearrange the critical loads panel or combine some more circuits. So that's a trip. And then other times, sometimes a very large load accidentally gets put on the critical loads panel. And maybe it's a hot water heater, or it's maybe it's the hair dryer, or no, the clothes dryer. And so anyway, that overloads the inverter and the battery. And so the installer has to do another truck roll and come out and rewire that part of it. So the end result is that when installing a typical ESS system, the bypass is not enough. The inverter is always undersized, and the battery is always undersized by the solar salesperson. I'd say in 95% of the cases, or maybe it's 98% of the cases, and that's because the hybrid inverter and the hybrid battery are the most expensive parts of the overall system. And so the installer has to continually make return trips to adjust this compromise that's been made of what we can power and what we can't power. And it's not a great customer experience either. So let's see how we can fix that and make it a great experience for both the installer and the customer. So what we did is in the 15K is a 200 amp bypass with a transfer switch built in. And so what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the grid from the main service panel and run it through the Sol-Ark and add a 200 amp manual disconnect that's required by NEC. So that way, we didn't do a critical loads panel. We covered every single load in the main service panel. You didn't miss anything. So the customer is going to be happy that you didn't miss a single circuit. Now, where we have to be careful is we can't overload the inverter either. I've seen some other manufacturer solutions is that they have a something like this, but their answer to the customer is, well, the customer, when the grid goes down, they have to select which breakers to turn off so that they don't overload their inverter. I don't think that's very customer friendly. I don't think that people are in an emergency are going to remember which circuits to turn off and not overload their inverter. And if their inverter overloads more than quite a few times, it will shut down permanently and require the grid to restart. That's not ours, but that's some of the other inverters out there. So anyway, what the complete answer is to add a what we call the Smart Loads 14. And what this does 14 circuits. And by the way, you don't have to use our load management. You can use we've been installed with Lumen, we've been installed with Span, so you can use whatever load management solution you want to use. But I think load management, along with a powerful ESS system, is a great solution for customers and the installer. It's a lot fewer calls for the installer. It's a lot fewer calls for the manufacturer, and it improves customer satisfaction greatly. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to install this load management, and we're going to cover some of the biggest loads in the system. Things typically like a lot of dual breakers. Like, so here's an example of where we've got an all electric home. So our hot water heaters are electric. We've got AC units. We've got typically ovens are now electric. They're not gas. Then we've got car chargers. We've got cooktops. We've got furnaces. We've got pool pumps. So let's see. So quite a bit of stuff going on here. And because a lot of new construction is all electric and not gas, this problem is only getting worse. So anyway, the Smart Loads 14 has 14 circuits of 100 amps, and it allows us to cover a whole bunch of stuff and let the load management disconnect some of these loads when the grid goes down. And it'll just keep these on as the priority is set and as the available power is available in the ESS. Okay. So again, what the load management is doing is it's making sure we don't overload the inverter when the grid is down. Okay, so what does the Smart Loads do? The Smart Loads 14. Well, we didn't want to do this product. We kind of had to, because I'll show some of the competition there. They don't handle as much power as what we really need, and they also don't do it fast enough. So this does 14 channels at 100 amps. What I like about it is that it learns what it should be programmed to, and then you hit the auto learn button after a few weeks. A lot of challenges in ESS installs is just wrong programming. So if we can do as much of the learning on our own and without the installer having to go measure all the loads and program that in the system, that's a huge time saver for the installer, and it's a huge, it's another mistake eliminated. So anyway, we can do remote firmware updates. We can do a lot of things, but fundamentally, what we're going to do is we're going to hook up our loads. Here, let me show you real quick. What we're going to do, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Probably can't see my cursor. But what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect one of the legs of either a 2-pole or a single pole breaker. We're gonna wire nut it to, oh, you can see the cursors. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to take out the one of the load wires. We're going to wire nut it and bring it down to the output of one of these smart loads, and we're going to take the what was here in the breaker and put a wire there and bring it down to the smart load input. And what that's going to do is, all it does is, go down here, come back up, and that's going to allow us to control these loads from the smart load. And it's going to be able to measure, it's going to be able to make decisions, it's going to be quite capable. But it's very, very easy wiring. The smart loads goes either below or above or to the side, and we're not having to rewire the main service panel. We're just having to break the circuit, bring it down, bring it back up. So it's a very easy install. Okay, so all we need to do is program in, what's the priority of my circuits? What do I want to run the most? And then, okay, if the percent SOC drops below a certain value, then I want to turn off that. I can also program it for time of use and shift certain loads, like maybe the dryer or the hot water heater or the pool pump, or maybe I want to pre-air condition my home in the evening. And instead of using battery, use the later half of the afternoon sun for that. So anyway, that's what that is. And also we can do grid peak shaving with that too. Couple questions here. Can the Smart Load 14 operate without the internet cloud processing? Yes, it sure can. In fact, the Smart Load 14 can operate without an ESS system. It actually has the ability to communicate to some of the utility companies built in, and it can do, what is that called? Distributed demand response. And so you can do grid peak shaving with the Smart Load 14 and not even use an ESS system. Let's see. Smart Loads appears a lot like how you'd wire a generator panel. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe so. I think that the generator panels, we're trying to back up the entire main service panel. And so a generator panel to me is like a critical loads panel. I don't want to do critical loads panels anymore. I want to do the whole house so the customer didn't miss any circuits, or the installer didn't miss any circuits, and that we cover all the big stuff that's not so critical, and we make sure that inverter doesn't get overloaded, and that we can adjust things via software instead of hardware and rewiring and truck rolls. Okay, will the Smart Load 14 be EMP hardened? I hope so. We will find out. We have to do the testing on it. We're trying to, but let us, I want third-party testing on it first. Okay, oh man, a lot of questions here. I'm only on the third slide. I have a project with a 15K array. The 15K isn't out yet. Hold on, stop. 15K array. I apologize. Feeding through 2 solar 12Ks to the main panel with no backup panel. Okay, that's fine. It's an extremely efficient 1,300 square foot basement, all electric home. The objective is to do full home backup. Can the Smart Load 14 work for this? Yes, it can. I'll cover this later, but the Smart Load 14 communicates to the inverter via the Modbus. And so you can use the Smart Load 14 on grid or off grid, and you can use it with any of our inverters, and or by itself. So anyway, it sounds like an automatic transfer switch. The Smart Load 14 is okay. So the Smart Load 14 is an automatic disconnect switch, load management, but I will say, we built an automatic transfer switch into our inverters, like the 15K and the 12Ks. But we are working so that we can use the Smart Load 14 as an automatic disconnect switch for the 12Ks. So for example, we'll be able to combine 2 of these channels for an L1 and 2 of these channels for an L2, and we'll be able to make the 12K work with a full 200 amps. So we'll have a whole 200 amps going to the main service panel, but we can disconnect that via 4 channels of smart load, and so effectively have 200 amp pass through with a 12K, and then still have 10 channels of load management. So yes, we can use a smart load for a lot of different things. Whoa, man, so lost the slide.
Hey, Tom, I would suggest going through your presentation, and at the end, we could take the questions.
Okay, yeah, slow down the questions just a little bit. Okay, so okay. Anyway, what else? We did a lot of redundancy here with our system because we want to be able to make sure this lasts a very, very, very long time. There's dual power supplies. It's built for outdoor install. It also has manual bypasses in case of failure, and some of this is field replaceable. So let's see what else. Okay, that's the main thing about the Smart Loads 14. Although I do want to answer a few of these. What is maximum wire length? Don't worry about that. There's no maximum wire length. Can the Sol-Ark 15K stack? Yes, it can. The equipment seems okay. All right. Okay. The power. By the way, the power control systems, the PCS, that relates to the inverter, not necessarily the smart load. Okay. So, ooh, shoot. All right, so if we look at a comparison of how the Smart Loads 14 compares against some of the other solutions out there, like I said, you can use whatever solution you want for load management. We've been installed with SPAN. They have SPAN has a nice solution if it's a brand new build. It's because it's a challenge to install. Or I should say retrofit. So if it's a new install, brand new, SPAN is a really good solution. Lumen, we've been installed with quite a few times. The challenge with Lumen is that they only go up to 60 amps and 30 amps. And so you only get about, you only get about 9 dual channel breakers there versus our 14, and we go up to 100. The other thing is transition time. So a lot of our customers end up installing dual lumens. Generac, their solution is made for generators, although they say they're coming out with something sometime soon of a different sort. But anyway, we try and produce products that are best in class at the time of release. And we built the Smart Loads 14 for us and for you, and this is what we wanted. So lots and lots of current because there's more and more high current, like instant demand hot water heaters. My word, those suck juice. Electric heat, car chargers, these kind of things. Very fast switching time, so that the inverter can disconnect from the grid, shed some of the loads that need to be, so that we don't overload the inverter, and then be able to power those back on within 4 milliseconds, so that we get a true UPS kind of transfer time and don't glitch the clocks and so forth. And stacking up to 15 systems. An easy install, that's one key thing. Okay. All right. And because our goals are to make ESS systems more affordable, we even made these to work with other inverters on the Smart Load 14. So you don't have to use a Sol-Ark system. You can use a Tesla. You can use Outback. You can use Generac. You can use Enphase or SolarEdge. It's okay with us. You'll get a little bit more out of it with our inverter with the 4 millisecond transfer times. And we still have a little bit of work to do on the software for using third-party inverters. But anyway, we made this for everyone. So, okay. So let me see. Just checking the chat. All right. So effectively, if we look at this, what we did is we took a 12K, we increased the power output about 15% during the daytime, and about 30% during the nighttime. And and also added a 200 amp transfer switch, so you can plug the whole home through it. And we didn't increase the cost very much. Basically, the price of an automatic transfer switch. So that's how we're trying to address cost and keep whole home backup affordable, is with the 15K. The second thing is that we added smart load capability. When you add load management capability to an ESS system, it's like doubling the power output of the ESS without the cost, without adding twice the batteries, without adding twice the inverter power. So, the cost of load management is about 1/10 the cost per watt of the cost of an ESS wattage. So load management can buy you a whole ton of usable capability for not much cost. And that's why we recommend it so much. And this is just showing you how it would work. And again, we're battery agnostic. You can use whatever you want. Kilovolt, Simplified. We communicate with a lot of batteries and support those. Okay, so this is just showing you some data behind what we do. And okay, so I wanted to break down the cost for you so you understand a little bit closer what we deal with. And if we look at the retail price of the customer price of a 12K that puts out 9 kilowatts, and we also, that's about this price, and this is the wattage. So this is the cost per watt of power coming out of the 12K. Then if we look at the battery, let's say we get a 20 kilowatt hour battery, typical discharge rates are about half a C. So maybe if I get a 20 kilowatt hour battery, I get 10 kilowatts out of it. And let's say it's 60 cents a watt hour retail. So this is the price for that. So the total price, but whatever is the lowest in terms of wattage. So overall, I'm getting about $2. I'm paying about $2 a watt for an ESS system. Then here's just an example of the limitless 15K and retail price. And then we're going to need a slightly larger battery because we're doing higher discharge rates. So we bring that down. It's still a little bit under $2 a watt, but still it's, we impacted it some, but your battery size had to increase to get the wattage out. So overall, we're still around $2 a watt. Here's the key thing is when we look at smart loads, when we're doing load management, we can do it very, very cheaply, at least a tenth the cost. So that's why I like load management. We'll also see later how we can introduce microinverters in that equation and do a lot of things here. So overall, if we look at what we're able to do during the day versus nighttime, the 12K was 9 kilowatts. The 15K is 15 during the day, 12 at night off the batteries. But if we add load management, we're able to, let's say we're managing 12 kilowatts of loads, air conditioning, hot water heaters, or heat or pool pumps. We're able to shift those during the daytime when we're not running off batteries and really effectively use our batteries much more capable. And so it's when your customer comes to you and says, I want to do whole home backup, well, you can say, well, I got a solution for you. We can actually get close to that when we add some load management to it. And actually without a huge price increase. You're looking at about $3,100 plus labor. Okay, now the other thing is a lot of customers say, okay, I want to run my air conditioning, my 5-ton AC. Well, that's going to require a lot of batteries, and it's going to require at least either two 12Ks or a 15K, or maybe more than a 15K, maybe 15K plus load management. So a lot of times the answer is no, you can't run everything in your house, like your hot water heater, your car charger, your electric dryer. You can't just do all that. And so the customer is kind of like let down. So one of the things that you can do is, instead of adding 2 ESS systems, what you can do is you can say, okay, customer, what we can do if we add, you know, $2 or $3 or $4,000 in addition to what you're looking at here, we can add micros to the equation. And what we'll do is we'll AC couple the panels to the ESS system, and we can double the power during the daytime. And that way, during the daytime, when the grid's down, you can run everything. Um, and so here we've got, we introduced, we waited quite a few years to introduce this. This is actually the 3rd generation. It's taken 3 and 4 years before we wanted to introduce micros. And that's because it is very painful if you get this wrong. We're introducing our dual and quad channel. These will be available in 3 months, and they will be available in California in 6 months because the CEC requires a long time. And so dual and quad channel, each channel is 500 watts. So they handle very large panel sizes. Some of the cool things about it is the cabling is included. You don't have to buy special trunk cables like you do with other manufacturers. That's just a money-making scheme for those guys. So you get a 4-meter trunk cable and 50 amp connectors, and you can do up to 3 of these in series on the 2,000 watts. So every string I can do 6,000 watts per string. So here we've got an example, and actually, wait, I'm going to skip through this quickly because we don't have a lot of time. But I'll be covering this more tomorrow, but basically it's very low cost. The gateway is included via Wi-Fi, but you can also get a gateway from us for doing power line communications. But effectively, it's a very low cost solution. I'll be covering our competition tomorrow, and it's a very, very low cost per watt for power you can get from the panels directly, AC power. So anyway, let's see what kind of questions. Okay, I have a customer that needs this load management solution. Contact us. Oh, what's the release date? So we are releasing the Smart Load 14 in about, let's see, it's about, I think we're doing beta sites now. So you can contact us and be a beta site. I'd rather not your customer be a beta site. If anybody's willing to be a beta site for the 12K, please contact us. We're doing beta testing now, and it'll be in full release in about 4 weeks. And then the ULs will be at the end of, I want to say mid-March, or the ULs. We'll have to send you the stickers. Okay. Thank you for the comment. This is freaking genius. The smart load took us a long time, by the way. It's not easy. There's this whole story behind it on how much power we're switching. Where can we find the details on the microinverters? Please attend my session tomorrow. I'll be talking all about our microinverters. Yeah, minimum voltages, all that stuff. Yep. Okay, cool. Okay, all right, continuing on. Still learning. Okay, so I wanted to re-show this, but just showing you the power of adding microinverters. So by adding microinverters, this is that second line. This is saying, okay, I only had 15 kilowatts if I only had the 15K and 12 kilowatts at night. But by adding micros for just $4,000 here in this case, I'm able to double the power during the daytime and really run all the air conditioning, all of the car chargers and the hot water heaters, and load management just makes it all the much better so that we don't overload it during the daytime or nighttime. So what I'm trying to get at is I can if you add about $3,000 or $4,000 and AC couple the micros to an ESS, then you can double its power output during the day. And likewise, if you add load management, you can double its power during the daytime and the nighttime. It's effective power. Or you can add both and triple the power during the day and double the power at night. And you can do that at very low cost compared to 2 and 3 and 4 ESS systems. That's what we're trying to do, is make these systems affordable for your customers. Okay, so if we look at just a comparison, we've got Generac. They do 7.6 kilowatts during the day. They do 9 kilowatts off grid. Their battery is NMC, so it's active cooled NMC, so they get about 10 years out of it. And this is the MSRP price, or the customer price. We've got Tesla at 10 kilowatts, actually a fairly large battery bank, and 10 years. It's actively cooled NMC, so it's about 10-year lifespan. And then we've got SolarEdge. They used to be 7.6. I think they're coming out, or they're just now coming out with 11 kilowatts. So good for them. They've increased the power. They realize everybody wants more power, and we keep adding more electric things and going more towards natural gas to electric homes. And their old battery, LG Chem, was 8.5 years. It was passively cooled NMC, so it wasn't very long lifespan. With us, you can use whatever battery you want. We recommend you go with a battery that is LFP technology, not NMC. It lasts a lot longer, like 16 years. Also, we recommend load management. And for a little bit more money and being able to run almost everything, $3,000 or $4,000, add micros and AC couple. Improve the experience of your customer. I'll be covering the micros and what I can do tomorrow from Sol-Ark. And so for about the same, a little bit more cost than some of these others, you're getting a huge amount of power, about 50% more power, 60% more battery life, and about 8% more efficiency. So about 120% more value over these solutions. And then when you add the micros, it's even more power. So with this, I'm at about, with micros and load management and those sort of things, I'm at about 3 times the power of these other solutions at just a little bit more cost. That is a huge benefit to the installer. Very, very few calls saying, hey, my inverter shut down, why did it shut down? And a very good customer satisfaction and a lot of referrals for other customers. They spend a lot of money on this whole thing. Let's make them really happy, is my thing. All right. A few more questions here. Wow. Okay. Doesn't this addition of AC coupled micros really mean we're adding 2x to the amount of solar? No, it does not. You don't have to DC couple the panels. You can AC couple the panels instead of DC coupling them. It includes rapid shutdown. I'll talk about it tomorrow. So you don't have to add twice the amount of solar. You can leave the same amount of solar. Release date for the 15K, limitless 15K. Okay. Let's see. So we have beta sites currently in process now for the 15K. ULs will be at the end of March. So actually early April is ULs. And then the CEC, California, always throws some wrenches in there, and it'll be another 3 months. So it's 3 months for ULs, and we can send you stickers, and it's another 3 months for California. Okay, on the 15K, that is. Okay, assuming during off-grid and Gen not operating, all big loads get shut off first, but does load management bring these large loads back on based on battery voltage, predefined order, or only when the Gen starts back? Okay, that's a really good question, Jeff. It's when the system goes off, when the grid fails, what happens? So the inverter, the load management is communicating with the inverter, and it knows how much power is available. It also knows how big the loads are in the whole home, and it knows what each of the loads are. So it will, if it can power some of these high priority loads and not overload the inverter, they will be seamless. They will not be shut off. So you're not powering them down and powering them back up. That would require a lot more startup power, and has larger risk of overloading the inverter. So instead, we keep them powered on, just like they'd be on the UPS. And if we see another large load come on later on, we shut that. If it's a lower priority or it's below the state of charge that we want it on, then we just turn it off very, very quickly. So it's a predefined order in terms of priority, and it's based upon SOC. We don't use it based upon battery voltage. And then also, if a generator comes on, we can power more on then. Who should I contact for beta program? Beta program for, okay, I'm reading David's post, a beta program to see what's involved. Don't see in phase already. I don't know which beta program. Contact sales at Sol-Ark, sales at solark.com. We can help you. What is the limiting factor on why the 15K can do 15K from solar, but only 12 kilowatts from battery? Because we're dealing with a hell of a lot of current at 48 volts. We wanted to stay a 48 volt solution because there's lots and lots of battery choices out there. So, but we could do more power from the solar array. So that's why we did more power during PV versus 12 kilowatts from battery. Does the load center state of charge require batteries to communicate with the inverter? No, it does not. The load center, Mike Howard. Okay. The smart loads can get the state of charge from the inverter, and the inverter is getting it from the batteries, or it's estimated it from the batteries. We have a pretty good estimation, or there's another way to the smart load can get the state of charge. So, which I want to talk to people directly about that. I don't want to tell our competitors. What options are available for existing 8K solar? It handles the house loads fine for now with no issues. Looking to go off grid. You can add a smart load or our microinverters to any of our existing solutions out there, including the 8K or the 12K. They're already installed. Okay, sweet. Okay, but the main point I'm trying to get here is when you add load management, when you add micro AC coupled AC coupling to an ESS system, you're able to do it, get 3 times the power capability without 3 times the cost. That would cost, look at this, that costs $75,000. That's insane. People cannot afford that. If you didn't notice, if you saw the picture previously, that's, some people can afford that, but most people can't. Okay, so anyway, I just want to thank our installers. We try
You do
hard.
have several generator questions in the Q&A section. I don't know.
Okay, let me pull up. Okay, I just got to my last slide. So let me pull up the Q&A or questions. I got them right here. Thank you.
There's some in answered that I said we'll get to, so you have to address those as well as the ones in open.
Okay, no problem. I'll get to them right now.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I just bought 2 Sol-Ark 12Ks. I have a 200 amp whole home transfer switch with a 20 kW generator. I was planning to wire my AP Systems grid tied system to AC couple with the Sol-Arks to provide the whole home backup. Should I switch to a 15K limitless with SmartLoads 14? And there's a way to swap them. Can it be a beta site? If you already have, first of all, I have 2 Sol-Ark 12Ks. I think it's fine. It's great. Just install that. So I would go ahead and do what you're planning on doing is use the AP Systems and AC couple into the 2 Sol-Ark 12Ks, use the whole home transfer switch with a 20 kW generator. That's fine. Just go with that. If you think you want to add the SmartLoads 14 later, go for it. You know, that's not a problem, but don't undo what you've already planned. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. My shop can be a beta site for the 15K. Contact sales@solark.com. Okay. How do we satisfy utility disconnect when feeding whole home? Oh, the utility disconnect. Yes, you have to still have for 15K, you still have to have a manual disconnect, 200 amp disconnect, at the main. Or we can use the Smart Loads 14 as a 200 amp disconnect as well, I believe. I'm checking into that on the 12Ks, but not necessarily the 15Ks. Do you current limit large loads like well pumps at startup? Do we current limit? No, we do not current limit. They need the current. 15 dimensions, the same as 12K? No way. That thing is ginormous. It's a little bit bigger. The reason the 15K is so much larger is not just because of the power, it's because you can put 2-aught wire in the darn thing, so you can do 200 amps of bypass. The user wiring area is quite large. Okay, for those wondering how you can get more overall than what grid tie allows, think of feeding power from both ends when PV in use. More overall than what grid tie allows. Okay, that's fair. You can do both. You can do both DC and AC coupling on a smart loads on a 15K. That's not a problem. Actually, I should be typing. Oh, I'm supposed to answer these. Okay. Okay. When will the 15K be available? The 15K is available in beta site here in the next over the next month. It has been in beta for quite some time in a few places, but there's more room for availability now for beta sites. We're simply waiting on ULs, which will be in April, and then California not available. It'll be available off grid whenever, but in terms of on grid and connecting to the utility lines, CEC is very, very strict. Utilities are very strict, and so that is 6 months away. I cannot speed that up. Okay, can you add a 15K and its 200 amp bypass to an existing 12K install? Oh man. Can the 15K and 12K be parallel? Oh my Lord. Wow. Let me get back to you on that one. That's a humdinger. I'll get back to you on that one. That's a good question. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at some more of the chat questions. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Probably just have about a minute, Tom. I mean, this is fantastic info. They're going a little crazy for you as usual.
I know.
So we can, we can finish up in the 3 to 4 session, but I'm going to have to end it in about a minute or two.
Okay. All right. What I recommend is send these questions to sales@Sol-Ark. And for now, until we get the support side up, and yes, the 15K does work with any AC microinverter, but anyway, I like ours. And I think that's it. So I appreciate all the good questions, and thanks everyone.
Thank you so much for your time, Tom. And we'll end this now, guys. And if you want, Tom will be available in the next 3 o'clock networking session. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye.